Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for...
Let's keep on swimming, keep on swimming, keep on swimming, UnSpun.
I want to go swimming. I'm gonna go jump in the lake. I think there are some people at the park board that would like me to just go jump in a lake, and I will, and I'm gonna enjoy it because I can here at this lake, but I can't go and enjoy a couple of spots in Vancouver because I believe has been a really inept managing of our park system. Let's get into it, George.
Oh boy, leadership matters, Jody. Leadership matters. I think we'll get into my holiday in a bit, but I came back and I was just a bit bored on Sunday, and I saw this stuff about the water park being closed in at Lumberman's Arch in
Stanley Park.
And I was like, oh God, are you kidding me? And there's some pictures, like there was no warning. I'm a parent, I got kids, we go to these, my younger kid, he's 14 now, but still these water parks are important for Vancouver downtown residents especially. And so I kind of tweeted that I'd heard that a couple had been closed. I said, I heard the park boards decided to close water parks for environmental reasons or something. And oh man, it went off. And it was
Can I just
yeah,
I want to point out that you were an integral part of, not to bury the lead, these water parks, this particular splash pad being reopened this week. And I'd like to congratulate you on the work you're doing at no charge on behalf of City Hall. Like, where are the people, right? This reminds me of Hot Dog Gate. And for those who don't remember, I was at my son's Little League game at Carnarvon Park, where there's a beautiful concession stand that you could literally eat off the floor in. And for some reason, you're only allowed to sell hot dogs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm like, so it's fine on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it's too dirty on the rest of the week, or what? Like, what's going on? Give me a damn hot dog. And it took a couple of park board officials showing up that day. I believe it was John Cooper and Sarah Kirby Young who showed up and then made it a thing. And then I found out that the permitting process for that little park, Carnarvon Park, was the same as the Celebration of Light. Like, it's so ridiculous what's happening. So then you dig deeper on this splash pad. Sorry, you've wound me up and I'm going off. But you did all of this work that should have been done by the people who are elected to run the city. And there you are, you're getting it done. And what we find out, it's an environmental hazard. Meanwhile, cruise ships are going by using the bay as a toilet. Like, it's unbelievable.
It's being dumped into the into that zone through our storm sewer system. I mean, it's there's a little gas station on the water right there. It's like, come on. It's chlorinated water. It's water because it's chlorinated.
It's water.
It's such a bunch of, and John had put a motion forward the week before, and I texted him, what the hell? He said, oh, nobody picked it up. I'm like, and he had pulled it out. They deferred it to the next whatever council.
And what's that guy's name that loves
this? Like, come on.
What's the guy's name who I don't like to mention? That guy. Yeah, that guy that loves the meadow and grasses.
He doesn't like us to mention him either.
Well, he came at you on Twitter in a way that I thought was it showed his character in a way that I just wanted to come at him. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even giving you the time of day. The guy that like actively tries to undermine absolutely everything in the city of Vancouver. Luckily, he's only a one-term park board commissioner, but there are others on the park board who are running for city council. So make note, people, because we got to talk.
Running for Green or Cope. Don't vote for them, as far as I'm concerned, who are on that park board, because they just it's devastating what they've done. So there's that. So we won. So in that rant I was on all day Sunday. For those people who don't believe Twitter, is a useless platform or it's annoying, it can be very effective. You get conversations going. Media are watching it. And so I think Mike.
So are politicians.
He DM'd me. And he said, "What's going on with this? I'm in Victoria. What the heck is this?" And so I told him, and then he talked to John the next morning, and then Global picked it up. And by that point, there was just like, and I put out, call this number if you want to complain about this. And the next day, the park board announces that they will be reopening that pad. But and then later that day they announced they're probably going to put some logs back. This is the other issue at Park Board, is that they took if you've been to Vancouver, you go to the beach, the logs are a very crucial part of our life. If you're a parent, they become the zones of protection for especially little kids. These logs are really, really crucial to how we experience the beach. And if you're old, as I get older, I like to lean against something.
Or use it to stand up, for sure. I did the log story last Tuesday, when I was filling in on the Mike Smith show, and we did
Yeah.
it as the top story on the show. And we could have done an hour on it, and then we could have done another hour off the back end just on the buzzline callers and emails that I was getting. It was absolutely
They're
unbelievable. Like, and
the
their reasons for it
logic.
though, George, right? So explain the reason behind fewer logs on the beach. First, it was COVID. We're going to give people more space to spread
Yeah.
out among, yeah, fine. So they moved those. And then
No.
they went into log jail. That was an international story, having the logs,
Yeah.
because you got to put a fence around these. People cannot be trusted with
Mm-hmm.
logs. I don't even know what that is. And then they put some back. And the reason for putting some back was,
Well, they've really put none back at some point, but they're arguing that it's safety, that they can't police it properly because there's some troublesome issues happening. Needles, broken glass. I'm like, okay, sounds like downtown Vancouver to me. Standard day. What is the problem? How is this different than it was 2 years ago? This has always been a problem on the beach. Broken, as a parent and as anybody who goes to the beach, you always think there might be broken glass. Yes, we live with needles. Sucks, but we keep our eyes peeled for them. And frankly, needles. I know it's a scary thing, but actually, they're not as dangerous if you get poked. It can be bad, but it's anyways. Their argument was it's ironic because they were using safety and health as the main issues, and then they
the beach.
will sit
And then
there and let the grass grow like crazy in these urban meadows where now if I do my run in the morning, I look up on the hill, I see garbage, I see needles, I see broken glass in this mess of weeds and blackberry bushes that are taking over. Excuse me, what about the safety and all this other stuff that you're talking about with the logs? But meanwhile, up the hill, just like I can actually almost touch the logs, jail, and the grass. And they're using the same different argument for the. It's like, what is going? This park board is insane. They're insane. They're the leadership,
I
the
agree.
management. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Ding, ding,
And
ding.
ugh, makes me
Keep
so
going.
mad.
Keep going. I got
Well, and
another
then we
one.
got. Don't
They're
worry though.
triggering me.
Don't worry. Ken Sim's going to get rid of the park board, right? Oh wait, what? Huh? Oh no. Made a promise about a year ago. Was it 6 months? Last fall, I think it was, when he announced his new
Last fall.
party, and he has been silent since then. And he's got these candidates that were on park board running with him. Silence. I mean, the flip flopping on that one. That's the gold for anybody running against Ken Sim, because that is ridiculous. Okay, change your mind, but let us know. But don't just avoid the subject. Everybody's asking. Everybody. Jack King. There's like tons of people saying, "Hello, what is going on? Are you going to dismantle the park board? You've got people running for a park board. What are you doing?" No answer.
Yeah.
Silence. It's just
deafening. It's deafening. ABC, a better city. ABC. That's Ken Sim, right? And Mike Klassen just announced, we're going to talk about that in a second. But before we move off of Park Board, I want to make note of, I sent this to you and you're like, just for you. Because there's the survey that was put out about Stanley Park and how people access Stanley Park. And there's a public hearing about it that's coming up. We record on Thursday. I believe it's on Monday. And I saw it move on Twitter. And I actually read the full report that was given to Park Board on the survey that I did fill out. And I've never seen such a leading, skewed survey ever in the history of survey. How much do you like bikes? Lots, a whole bunch, and a super ton. That's what it was. But then they have the little box at the bottom, and I'm like, I have 5 bikes in my garage. And however, we don't use Stanley Park as we used to, because it is being used as a velodrome by a handful of people. So anyway, the whole conversation surrounding that single lane and emergency vehicles not being able to access, and how they've shown that most people who use the park, and they're using data, when the data started to shrink in terms of who was visiting the park, they broadened the window and they used it like, these are how many cyclists and how many people came and walked in within a 10-kilometer radius. Guess what? Vancouver's not a 10-kilometer radius of Stanley Park. There are people whose tax dollars go into Stanley Park, who love Stanley Park, who want to use Stanley Park and can't afford it because there is like 3-hour parking. What if I only want to go for 15 minutes? What if I want to go for 15 minutes, go for a sandwich?
Park, can you?
You can, but it's 3-hour minimum.
Oh,
right? So
really
now ask the
expensive.
family, exactly. Now ask the family that's just looking for a place to go. They have no green space in their home and they're packing up the kids and they're going to drive down with their lawn chairs and their lunches because they can't afford the concession stand, which is now $17 for fish and chips. I mean, don't even get me started on how it's just not the affordable destination that it once was. As a low income family, we were a low to middle income Vancouver family in my childhood years. We would find a way to afford to do the things. And going to Stanley Park
Mhm.
was one of those things that we would do. We'd go in my grandfather's Impala and we'd have coffee crisps and some juicy fruit. And we'd go to the beach and we'd splash in the water and we'd get in our towels and we'd get back in at the end of the day and we'd drive back out. Like that's how we did. My
Mhm.
grandparents were never going to ride bikes to Stanley Park. I'm sorry. In the airy fairy, I wish the whole world were Amsterdam. It's not happening here. And when 300 days a year it rains, people should be able to drive their vehicles in and out of that park. I'm just so mad
You can have the best of
that
both worlds, the park
I
board, but
agree.
your
I agree.
incompetence shows you can't. I mean, I think that the lane that they've done on Beach Avenue, that the city did, is quite good. You've got 2
Rip it
lanes of
out.
traffic.
People are getting
No,
killed there, George.
no. The first part along by the aquatic center, and then after that, though, it's just chaos. It's like there's no structure. There's no way of getting in and out of the parking lots. There's just like
That's the
there's
part
no
I don't like.
passing lanes. There's no nothing. It's like
That's what
no
bugs me.
plan, no design, just random. And I'm sure they did not consult with the city of Vancouver, who has very, very competent engineering department,
Yes.
who
Paid,
build roads all
paid
the time.
to do it.
Paid
Paid to be
by our
experts.
taxpayers.
Sorry, I'm all fired up now. That Stanley Park thing just so makes me so mad. And George, all of the other things that we've talked about, the logs, budget. The grass in the meadows, budget. The fact that we don't have
Yeah.
lifeguards on beaches, budget. All of that budget comes back to Stanley Park not having $3 million a year in what they used to make in parking.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So don't BS us on why you're doing this. You can't afford to do
Just
it
tell us.
because you've made a decision, a political decision, your board, that took away $3 million in revenue and from your operating. And by the way, Park Board, what have you done in 10? Let's see, 11, 2000. When was the last community center built? Well, there's a senior center built in partnership with the city and the province. That was completed
Community
in
center was
2019. Nothing's been
wasn't that
built in the
Hillcrest?
city of Vancouver since the
Hillcrest.
Olympics. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hillcrest is the last
Hillcrest.
community center built. It's pathetic.
Yeah,
It's pathetic.
it's
You look
pathetic.
at other communities, what they're building, and we're doing nothing in Vancouver. And they have so much money set
Port
aside
Coquitlam.
in the
Port
community
Coquitlam.
amenity contributions by developers, millions. And in my council, we took away, reallocated over $100 million from the park board that had been allocated through community amenity contributions by developers because the park board wasn't spending it. And we said, well, we have to move this money. You can't just sit it. So we moved it to other stuff, mostly bike lanes. And it's just successive incompetence at that park board in every political party, pretty much. It's just terrible. So,
I will
and
jump in on the bike
it's
lane.
not about
What
getting
you
rid
just
of it; it's
said,
about fixing it. What's that?
fixing it. But you just mentioned bike
Mm-hmm.
lanes, like reallocating it to bike lanes. There's some bike infrastructure that really, really works in the city. Like it really does. So when people want to say that you and I are hating on bikes and cyclists because of what we talk about in Stanley Park, that's not the case. It's the sheer agenda at play here. And you were getting attacked by that guy on Twitter as like because you said we just want our kids to have places where they can feel joy and love and be safe, right? And somebody else chimes in and is like, take them to the beach. There's lots of water there instead of the splash park. It's like, no, that's not how it
Guess what?
works.
You
Like
can't swim the beaches today, Jody, because of E. coli,
E.
because of the
coli.
sewage that we pour into our water. Thank you, City of Vancouver.
Don't get me started on that. Okay, let's move on because I want to stay with the city of Vancouver, but let's move to the
Uh-huh.
crime piece of the puzzle because you saw that article or the story of the 30-year-old woman who got
Just
jumped.
2 blocks from. Well, there was two that happened, right? There was the woman and the man, and then
There's
one in
more.
Kitts and the one in Yaletown, right? There was a murder
Yeah,
in
and
Yaletown, and
the murder in Yaletown, right? So there's that. But let's talk about 10th and Alma for a second
yep,
because I
yep.
actually have some intel from that area through my network of moms, through all
Yeah.
the school systems there. Particularly the corner of 10th and Alma is a hotbed for petty crimes, and
What?
yeah, there are kids,
Like 7-Eleven
teenagers.
there, and
Exactly. There at
really?
3 o'clock in the afternoon, a 15-year-old kid and his friend were jumped by a couple of other teens that were masked, carrying a weapon, knives, and held them up, punched one in the face because he didn't give up his phone fast enough. And the other one I've literally had the talk with my kid to say, if somebody comes at you for your phone, just give it to them. Nothing's worth it. Just give it to them. It
One
doesn't
block
matter.
away a year ago, that kid was killed, right? One block from
Yes.
last year this time.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the intel behind that interaction was drugs and gangs. And I'm not talking heroin, I'm talking pot, and I'm talking gangs like gangs in high school. And that has always happened. There's always been that. If you ask the teenagers behind me right now, they would tell you they know all about it. But snitches get stitches. Like, literally, this is happening in our city. But that's what they talk about. They know exactly who's doing it, but where's the leadership? Kennedy-Stewart keeps coming forward going, hey, there's no crime in Vancouver. We're good. We're safe. Everybody feels safe. We don't feel safe, dude. We don't feel safe.
Photo ops on the downtown east side in front of tents with doing the West Coast symbol, like out of touch. He'll still win, though. He's still going to win. Anyways,
every time you say that, I throw up a little bit. I do. Let's get into it. Because the crime is just...
Okay. You mentioned Mike Klassen.
Yeah.
So
good guy.
Yeah, he ran with me in 2011, lost by 700 votes. Not I think he came in 11th. That's painful out of 10. So, he's running with ABC. So here's some math on this for those people who don't understand politics of Vancouver, and for those who are listening who cross the province. Vancouver has political parties.
Tell me. I don't understand why we have political parties, but go ahead.
Yeah, we have political parties, just historical. That's why we just do. And it's always going to be like that, and they're effective because you can raise money and be focused. And so in this, we have. So it's hard for an independent to win. Our mayor was an independent, and he won. He won because the vote on the right hand side of the spectrum, political spectrum, was split. So the race for council members, we talk about council, and I think this is happening in a lot of places. A lot of people want to run. That gets really confusing. When you have political parties, though, it makes it a bit easier because you'll just choose a slater. But I have in my experience in politics, there is a very simple math equation for running, because we have 10 seats in Vancouver, and this isn't as unusual, and because we don't have the ward system, which I do not support. And neither does many people like Larry Beasley. It just doesn't work. It becomes a ghettoizing neighborhoods. People get too much influence with an individual. You're not focused on the city as a whole. If anything, we should be expanding and maybe think about Vancouver as a region as opposed to a city. So when you have 10 people, 10 council members in the case of Vancouver, you have multiple political parties. So what happens? People want to vote. They'll vote for a political party, but they're not going to vote all 10 seats. People want to kind of do, like Gene Swanson, Cope, an activist. A lot of people on all sorts of political stripes voted for Gene Swanson because, you know what? And Harry Rankin, historically, way back, same kind of thing. It's good to have that kind of voice on council. And so I'm going to give away one throwaway vote there. And then, say, for example, in the last election, the Green Party also, Green Party, yeah, they're great. It's good to have a couple of Green Party. I'm going to give them a couple of votes. So now you got like maybe 3 to 4 votes. You kind of want to just do whatever you think. Then you'll give 6 to 7 votes.
You're literally doing my ballot from the last election, by the way. That's literally my ballot.
6 to 7 votes you'll give to your political party, but 6 is better. I mean, if you run 7 candidates, it's really hard. There's just historically, there's so much math and proof and science on this that 4 is a much better weight than a 7, because what happens is, you're running 7, but I only want to vote for 6. But it's not like all of those people are going to vote for the same 6 people. So what happens is that 7th vote gets spread all over the place. So you lower the vote for all of the other candidates automatically, instead of saying,
I get it. It's watering it down, right? Because if everybody chooses, tighten it up, because the odds of those 5
get all of those.
Yeah,
get all of those. So Mike Klassen being announced for ABC is very, very good news for John Cooper. John's running 6 council. It doesn't mean John's going to win as mayor. I'm talking about council candidates, but he's running 6. Now Ken Sim, ABC, is running 7. This is a very good thing for John, because people will choose a party. It's very good for council candidates.
And then water it out.
Yeah, that's right. So you could look at a potential council where John wins all 6 council candidates. Maybe ABC, because he's got 3 incumbents there, wins all 3 of
Right.
their count. Maybe,
Right.
and
Maybe.
maybe Gene Swanson wins. And
Right.
that is a potential scenario, because on the council candidates, there's a ton of left-wing people, so many that there's really only there's less weight on the on the right hand side for council. And then you have the mayor. You've got John Cooper versus Ken Sim, Mark Marison, and who am I missing?
Colleen Hardwick. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
main ones. And so Colleen and Mark, really, because he comes from the BC Liberals, he's going to have that on his weight around his neck. So he's considered right wing. Colleen's right wing. John's right wing. Ken's right wing. Over here on the left, good old Kennedy-Stewart, all by himself. So what's probably going to happen is a mushy middle, unless John or Ken or one of those guys can, and anybody, Mark maybe could, but that's bad for Kennedy, but not bad for anybody else. You're going to end up with Kennedy-Stewart winning again because of that split vote. And you hear stories about Colleen Hardwick's campaigns having a lot of trouble. She lost the president of her board. She's losing people. I've heard she's had fundraising potential issues, because she's sort of anti-development. So developers not going to give her money. And businesses are kind of like, you seem like you're anti-business. So it's going to be hard for her to get people to give her cash. And Kennedy-Stewart's got lots of money. He's been raising money for a while. I don't know where
he's been using the mayor's office as his campaign headquarters. Like, let's be real. Yeah.
Yes, he
yeah.
And Gregor did that too. Not as
he
bad,
did. Oh, no, I'm not saying he's unique.
Keep going.
I'm so exhausted, and this is the quintessential unspun statement as far as I'm concerned, as somebody who has never been in public office, have never been a politician, is how incredibly normalized it has become for the second you're elected for your campaign for re-election beginning, as opposed to doing absolutely anything to help the taxpayer at any level. And we can move to federal. Let's move to federal, actually, because I could bitch about the current state of the city of Vancouver for
5 minutes.
For sure.
We got the Premier and the federal. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's start provincial, and then we'll go federal. Well, because they tie into one another, with John Horgan having his last meeting as the leader of the premiers. I remember last year when they were having their lovely Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau, and John Horgan. They had the white spot like lunch. It felt like really, really real.
Beer.
No.
Yeah.
But let's talk, because you and I haven't had the opportunity to sort of talk through what's been happening with John Horgan saying that he is not going to run for re-election. Obviously, stepping away from politics. No one's surprised really by that, as he was sort of the unlikely premier in the first place. He didn't really want to run for premier, and he gets to exit with a higher approval rating than he started, which is super rare as well. But when he stepped down, did you see the press briefing when he said he was stepping away?
No,
and he said, right. So we'll get into where you were going and why, because there's a traveling update for those who think they've avoided random testing. You haven't. But while he was saying, maybe there's room for a more diverse, younger leader, somebody who is more reflective of the community. Like he put in a couple of real interesting words that almost felt like he was pointing toward people who hadn't said that they might obviously run, because he was announcing that he wasn't going to. And then we had Ravi Kahlon step forward not long after and announce that he was not running, and endorse David Eby, who has not even announced that he has plans to run. But watching all these dominoes, I'm like, oh, I'd like to be a fly on the wall behind this. Can you unspin what we're watching here?
This is it's a little bit what I predicted is happening in real time. Although I thought that he would stick around and call a snap election early and then bail right after that, so he could give that 4 years to that new leader to build up themselves for the next, and to take on Kevin Falcon, and for NDP to kill Kevin Falcon would be a good thing for them as well. But they just, obviously, Horgan, I've been in politics. It takes its toll, even if you're not fighting cancer. It's exhausting, and I can totally see. When I want to live my best life. He's in his 60s, pushing 70.
You look younger now than when you were on council. You do.
So great.
I think it's working with me. I think that you work with me. makes you younger.
It brings up the. Anyway, so this is the reason why, though. You can see now that there's one, they're anointing David Eby. I mean, it's nobody else is even like raising there's just nobody who wants the job.
No.
Which is really, really bad in politics. That's really bad for the NDP to not have a sort of a campaign that, because
Gives options.
He almost lost his riding, for God's sakes. He only won by a couple thousand votes in that riding. That's where Christy Clark, when she ran for premier, lost and had to rerun up in,
I remember,
Kelowna, the same riding. Your riding.
It's my riding. Yeah.
Weird riding. It's a super weird riding. Goes left
super weird.
Right, champagne socialists and all that kind of stuff. So
mushy middle. Mushy middle.
A lot of federal liberals who swinging all over the place on their vote.
Go talk about the federal liberals.
I just think Kevin Falk and the liberals are just sitting there going, awesome, this is great. Because Eby is very, very vulnerable, and good news for the liberals, I would say, because he's very left wing. He's done, you could argue, his, ICBC, you just heard, all that stuff they changed, they have to reverse it. The court decision saying, no, you can't.
You can't cap it. Yeah. Somebody can sue for lifelong damages when they're yeah.
And then
but I want to point out with Eby, he is human rights guy. He is I mean, his files have been pretty significant under John Horgan, and being somebody who is in his riding, and I've not always voted for him, I'll put it that way. Like, I don't talk about how I voted, and I have not. I'm the mushy middle. My vote is up for grabs for somebody who's going to fix what's broken in the city. And if the city doesn't fix it, then I hope the province steps in. That's how my mind works. But watching him evolve, because he's a very tall man, and his office is sort of central to our neighborhood. And you see him there. And before he, rose to the office he is in currently, you would see him in his office. You used to be able, before people would like attack politicians, which I think is just disgusting, you would be able to walk into his office and actually find him there and talk to him, which I think is admirable.
He's a nice guy.
Because exactly. But there are many politicians today, and I won't name names, Kennedy-Stewart, who you can't even get on the phone. You can't even get him on the phone if he knows you're going to disagree with him. He is like, and it's like, we need more accessible people who are willing to. And I think David Eby did step up after the Cullen Commission and intel dropped, after the report dropped. And he said, you know what? I'd like to thank the media, because without the media, this commission would not have happened, because of the likes of Sam and the John and all of the I can't name everybody, but all the investigative journalists who were going through the FOI documents. Justin McElroy comes to mind as well, going through these documents and really making it like something's wrong and making it into a bigger deal. Like that Eby referenced that. It's so refreshing to hear politicians like that. And I think Kevin Falcon lays some stuff on the table pretty hard as well. Like when John Horgan was leaving, the interview that was done with Kevin Falcon, BC Liberal Party leader now. At first, of course, he's very political and wanted to make a statement in case people tuned out in 2 seconds. And then he went on to say, you know what, John's a good guy. He's given his life to service. Like, when there's a human piece to the politicians for this mushy middle person, I like that. I like to see the person, and you say never say you're wrong. But I mean, there are some instances like the museum.
Never say your story in politics. Or in business, for that matter. It's tough. It's a sign of weakness for sure. But it seems.
But that museum stuff with Horgan, as soon as he made that announcement, we're all like, yeah, he's stepping away. You don't mea culpa to the degree of that.
Trudeau, Trudeau, like the bromance is over, and he's like, I got no F's. Like, bye bye, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna. And of course,
let me just drop a little.
We're arguing that the healthcare is their problem. The province has failed at this, but I would say that we saw this truck coming. This healthcare issue is not surprising. We knew this was coming 20, 30 years ago. We know the aging population. We knew this. And the formula that they created wasn't good enough. And
we had hallway medicine 10 years ago. This is not new.
This is not new. You can't get a doctor. You can't immigrate here as a doctor from somewhere else without having to start school again. I mean, that kind of stuff.
It's ridiculous.
That's been like all my life that we've heard that. And yet they still haven't fixed it. I mean,
it was my grandmother. My grandmother came here after World War II. As a doctor of physiotherapy. And she came to BC and was the hostess at the cafeteria at UBC. She was a physician in Denmark, fully trained, fully
Denmark's got
and completely bilingual, right? Spoke perfect English with a beautiful Danish accent. Speaking of places not here, let's talk just with our last 2 minutes here, George, about your trip to
Yes.
Machu Picchu and something else that's not new and is not just pandemic related, losing your luggage.
No, yes. Well, one of the people I was traveling with lost for the entire time. He flew Air Canada. First, he had a nightmare delays he was flying from Toronto, just unbelievable, 12, 14-hour delays. Got to Peru, his luggage did not make it. And he kept calling them, yes, it's on its way, email, all that stuff. And we kept moving. We're moving a lot around Peru, and his luggage was never. We was like,
oh my God.
so if you're traveling, buy those air tags from Apple, or put a thing in your luggage so you can at least say, oh, I can see where my luggage is now. It's somewhere, because they don't. These airlines, you look at what's going on, it's just chaos. And
Yeah, they don't know.
so I didn't check bags. I did carry on, but Amanda and I were we were flying back from Peru to our stop into Mexico City, and they made us check our bag as we are just getting onto the flight. I'm like, no, I don't want to check, but please don't take my bag. Please, I beg you. And they took our bag, and of course we got to Mexico City, and it disappeared for minutes. We had lucky at 6 hours delay there, like we were there, and it finally showed up. So it took.
Oh God.
2.5 hours
Dude.
at the belt, watching new luggage come and go. And like, you could have just. There was so much space
You could have just put it up there.
I was like, my luggage. Anyways, so this friend finally got his luggage. He's flying home today. He got it 2 days ago, so he's still down there. So he finally got some new shirts to wear. We were all lending him clothes and underwear and socks.
Oh my God.
It was a great trip.
Oh.
I will say that I must say that the airports down there were much more organized. I don't know why, maybe because they have more employees than they are up here. From when I came into Vancouver, chaos. My Nexus didn't work. Passport lineups were out everywhere. Luggage was just piled up everywhere. It's crazy. And now they've announced that they're going to bring back the testing, which just delays everything more. And of course,
Random testing,
passports, and
we got to talk about all that kind of stuff. You know what? We'll catch up on it. It's still going to be a problem next week. But it's been announced that, like, in a matter of days, there will be the return of random COVID-19 offsite. So it's not happening in the airport, but you will be directed to go to the offsite to be tested, and then you'll be required to test. But you'll also be required to test 8 days in, and you have an automatic quarantine window. So if you are chosen randomly by number, you will need to quarantine and prove that you are negative after 8 days in order to leave your house. And if you don't have a place to go to quarantine, I don't know what happens then. Like, oh my God. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Going on this COVID next week, but it's the common cold now. Can we just move on? Like, seriously, I know you and I don't agree, but I'm pretty much done with this COVID concept. I've had it. It's fine. Everybody I know has had it. Whatever. Can we just move on with our lives, Steve? Thank you.
I'm more moderate on that. I'm looking for my booster, but I'm waiting for the call. I'm not forcing it. I'm listening to science, but I'm still a unicorn, so I've yet to have it. But we don't have time to get into it now. We're 3 minutes over, George. I missed you.
See you next week. Enjoy the weather.
Bye. I'm gonna go jump in a lake.